October 3rd, 1995. Across America, people left their offices early. Schools wheeled televisions into classrooms. Bars unlocked their doors at noon and filled before lunch. Factory floors went quiet. Stock trading slowed to a crawl. 150 million people in a country of 260 million stopped everything they were doing. And they waited. They had been waiting for 9 months. Through 8 months of testimony, 1,000 witnesses, tens of thousands of pages of evidence. Through arguments about DNA and blood and gloves. Through allegations of racism and conspiracy and planted evidence. Through a trial that had consumed an entire nation. And now, in a courtroom in Los Angeles, 12 men and women who had deliberated for less than 4 hours were about to deliver their verdict. The defendants sat perfectly still. Orenthal James Simpson, football legend, Hollywood star, America's most beloved athlete, and the man charged with the brutal murders of his ex-wife and her friend. The judge's voice filled the room. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty. What happened next was something America had never seen before and has never forgotten. To understand what happened on October 3rd, 1995, you have to understand who O.J. Simpson was. Not who he became, who he was. Because no one becomes a symbol of justice, of injustice, of race, of celebrity, of guilt, without first becoming something extraordinary. Orenthal James Simpson was born on July 9, 1947 in San Francisco. Not the San Francisco of the Golden Gate and cable cars, the other San Francisco. Potrero Hill, a neighborhood of housing projects, gangs, and very few second chances. His father left when he was young. His mother, Eunice, raised 4 children alone, working double shifts to keep the family fed. Young Orenthal, everyone called him OJ, ran with a street gang called the Persian Warriors. He was headed nowhere that mattered. Then came football. At Galileo High School, coaches noticed something in that kid from Potrero Hill. The way he moved. The way he saw the field before anyone else did. He was faster than anyone around him, and not just fast in a straight line. Fast with his mind. Anticipating angles before they opened up. He transferred to USC, the University of Southern California, where he became something the country had never quite seen before. A black athlete so gifted, so magnetic, so likable, that even white America couldn't look away. In 1968, O.J. Simpson won the Heisman Trophy, the most prestigious award in college football, by the largest margin of victory ever recorded. 855 first-place votes, a record that still stands today. The Buffalo Bills selected him first overall in the 1969 NFL Draft. And O.J. went to work. For the next decade, he was the best running back in the world. In 1973, he did something no one had ever done in professional football. In just 14 games, he rushed for 2,003 yards. 2,000 yards. In a 14-game season, the record had stood for years and people thought it was unreachable. He didn't just break it, he shattered it. 6 Pro Bowls, 5 All-Pro selections, Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility. But here is what made O.J. Simpson different from every other great athlete of his era. He crossed over. After retiring from the NFL in 1979, Simpson didn't fade into sports commentary and occasional appearances. He became a full-blown celebrity. He starred in films The Towering Inferno, the Naked Gun series, playing bumbling Detective Nordberg alongside Leslie Nielsen in one of the most beloved comedy franchises of the 1980s. He hosted Saturday Night Live. He appeared in Roots. He became a broadcaster for NBC and ABC. But it was the Hertz commercials that made him ubiquitous. If you were alive in the 1970s and 80s, you know exactly what I'm talking about. O.J. in an airport, sprinting through gates, leaping over luggage, a wide smile cutting through chaos, a voice behind him cheering, "Go, O.J., go!" Those commercials ran for years, and they worked. Hertz's profits increased by 50% in the first year. Brand awareness went up by 40%. Because O.J. Simpson wasn't just selling rental cars, he was selling something rarer. The idea that a black man from the projects in San Francisco could become America's favorite neighbor. He was handsome, he was funny, he was comfortable in any room. The football locker room, the Hollywood backlot, the corporate boardroom. He was so effortlessly light that he reportedly told friends, "I'm not black, I'm O.J." That line would come back to haunt him, but we'll get there. By the late 1980s, Simpson was earning over $1 million a year in endorsements alone. He had a sprawling estate in Brentwood, one of Los Angeles's most exclusive neighborhoods. He had everything. He also had Nicole. Nicole Brown was 18 years old when she met O.J. Simpson. She was working as a waitress at a Beverly Hills nightclub. He was 30 years old and already one of the most famous men in America. They married in 1985. They had 2 children together, a daughter named Sydney and a son named Justin. To the outside world, they were a glamorous couple at the center of the Los Angeles social scene. But behind closed doors, a very different story was unfolding, and the evidence of that story would eventually be heard by 150 million people, every word of it. New Year's Day, 1989, Nicole Brown Simpson called 911 from her home in Los Angeles. When police arrived, they found her hiding in the bushes outside her house, wearing nothing but a bra and sweatpants. Her face was bruised, she was shaking. "He's going to kill me!" she screamed at the officers. "He's going to kill me!" O.J. Simpson was not arrested that night. He was one of the most famous men in America, and in 1989, domestic violence was still largely treated as a private matter. He pleaded no contest to spousal abuse. He was fined. He was ordered to counseling. Nicole stayed. Over the following years, neighbors, friends, and family members would witness and hear about incidents they could not ignore. Nicole's sister, Denise Brown, later testified in graphic detail about O.J.'s rages, the screaming, the throwing, the violence. Nicole documented it in journals and in letters that were discovered after her death. In one undated letter, she wrote that O.J. gave her disgusted looks when she gained weight during pregnancy and beat the holy hell out of her. Though, when hospital staff asked, they were told she had fallen off a bike. Nicole filed for divorce in 1992, citing irreconcilable differences. But even after the divorce, O.J. would not let go. October 1993. Nicole calls 911 again. O.J. has broken down the back door of her house. She is whispering into the phone, terrified of being heard. "He's O.J. Simpson," she tells the dispatcher. "I think you know his record." On that tape, a tape that would later be played in open court for the entire world to hear, you can hear O.J. raging in the background. You can hear the fear in Nicole's voice when she says, "I don't want to stay on the line. He's going to beat the S out of me." Less than 9 months later, Nicole Brown Simpson was dead. The night of June 12, 1994, was warm in Los Angeles. Nicole had been to her daughter Sydney's dance recital that evening. Afterward, her family had dinner at a local restaurant. O.J. was there too, but not with them. He sat at a separate table. There were reports of tension. That night, a friend of Nicole's, a 25-year-old man named Ron Goldman, stopped by her Brentwood condominium to return a pair of sunglasses she had left at the restaurant where he worked. Shortly before midnight, a neighbor's dog began barking, a mournful, desperate howl that wouldn't stop. A neighbor followed the dog and found them. Nicole Brown Simpson was lying near the front gate of her condominium. She had been stabbed multiple times. The forensic evidence would later show that her attacker had grabbed her from behind and cut her throat with such force that she was nearly decapitated. Ron Goldman was nearby. He had fought back. There were defensive wounds on his hands, but he had been stabbed over 30 times. Nicole's 2 children, Sydney and Justin, were asleep upstairs. They slept through it all. O.J. Simpson was immediately considered a suspect. He had motive. He had a documented history of violence against Nicole. He had no solid alibi for the hours around the murder. On June 17th, 5 days after the murders, the LAPD issued an arrest warrant. Simpson was supposed to surrender to police by 10 o'clock that morning. His attorney, Robert Shapiro, had assured police that he would. He didn't show. At a press conference that afternoon, LAPD Commander David Gascon faced a room full of journalists. The Los Angeles Police Department right now is actively searching for Mr. Simpson. He is a wanted murder suspect, and we will go find him. Earlier that day, Robert Kardashian, O.J.'s close friend, and yes, the father of that Kardashian family, had appeared on live television to read what sounded unmistakably like a suicide note. "Don't feel sorry for me," Kardashian read, his voice barely holding. "I've had a great life, great friends. Please think of the real O.J. and not this lost person." America held its breath. Then, a television journalist in a helicopter spotted them. A white Ford Bronco, moving at 35 miles per hour down a Los Angeles freeway. Al Cowlings, O.J.'s former teammate, his closest friend, was at the wheel. O.J. was crouched in the back seat, a gun pressed to his own head. Every television network cut to live coverage. The NBA Finals were interrupted. Crowds of people lined freeway overpasses, some holding signs, some cheering, some simply standing and watching in stunned disbelief as one of the most famous men in America rode slowly towards some unknown destination. For 90 minutes, America watched. The Bronco pulled into the driveway of O.J.'s Brentwood estate. After a standoff and negotiations conducted over cell phone, O.J. Simpson finally got out of the car. He was placed under arrest. He was taken to jail under a 24-hour suicide watch. On July 22, 1994, he was arraigned on 2 counts of first-degree murder. He pleaded not guilty. The trial was set for January 1995. And what came next was something the American justice system had never seen before and has never seen since. Because what happened inside that courtroom would stop being about a murder and start being about something much larger. January 24, 1995. Department 103, Los Angeles Superior Court. Judge Lance Ito presiding. The prosecution was led by Marcia Clark, a formidable trial lawyer with an unbroken record of murder convictions. Alongside her, Christopher Darden, one of the few black prosecutors in the district attorney's office, chosen in part because the case was already charging along racial fault lines. The defense assembled what the media immediately called the Dream Team. Robert Shapiro, one of Los Angeles's most prominent criminal attorneys. F. Lee Bailey, a legend of the American courtroom. Barry Scheck, a DNA expert from New York. Alan Dershowitz, from Harvard Law School. And at the center of it all, Johnny Cochran. Cochran was something rare, a black attorney who had spent his career defending both the famous and the powerless. He had represented Michael Jackson. He had represented victims of police brutality. He spoke in a preacher's cadence, building, repeating, landing every phrase with the weight of something felt, not just heard. From the beginning, Cochran and the defense made something clear. This case was not just about what happened on the night of June 12th. It was about the Los Angeles Police Department, about a justice system that had spent decades treating black men as suspects first and human beings second. 1 year after the Rodney King verdict, after a city had burned because 4 white officers were acquitted of beating a black man on videotape, Cochran was asking a predominantly black jury to consider something. What if the evidence had been planted? The prosecution's case was strong. There was blood, there was DNA, there was a bloody glove found at O.J.'s estate. There was a history of violence, there was opportunity, there was motive. But then came Mark Furman. Furman was the LAPD detective who had found the bloody glove at O.J.'s Rockingham estate. He testified that he had followed proper procedure. He testified that he had never mishandled evidence, and under oath, he testified that he had not used racial slurs in the previous 10 years. The defense found recordings, hours of taped conversations in which Furman used some of the most vicious racial language imaginable. Conversations in which he described beating black suspects. Conversations in which he talked about what police officers would love to do to certain people in alleys. Furman was recalled to the stand. He invoked the Fifth Amendment on every single question about those tapes, the right not to incriminate himself. In front of a jury of 8 black jurors, Cochran, in his closing argument, called Furman a lying, perjuring, genocidal racist and compared him to Adolf Hitler. The comparison was inflammatory. It was also devastating. Then came the glove. The prosecution had 2 pieces of evidence they believed were irrefutable. A bloody glove found at the crime scene in Brentwood, and its matching pair found at O.J.'s estate in Rockingham. The same brand, the same size, the same blood. Prosecutor Christopher Darden made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He asked O.J. Simpson to try on the glove. In open court, in front of the jury, in front of the cameras, in front of 150 million people watching at home, O.J. Simpson stood up. He pulled on the latex glove the court had given him for sanitary reasons. Then he reached for the brown leather glove, the evidence glove, the glove found in blood, and struggled to work it over his hand. It didn't fit. He flexed his fingers dramatically. He showed the jury his struggle. And Johnny Cochran, watching from the defense table, understood immediately what had just happened. That evening, in his closing argument, Cochran looked directly at the jury and said words that would become the most quoted phrase of the entire trial. "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit." Darden later said he had looked at O.J.'s hands and believed the glove would fit. He had violated one of the oldest rules of courtroom law. Never demonstrate something in front of a jury unless you know the outcome. Years later, a theory emerged that Cochran had manipulated the glove, loosened the stitching so that O.J.'s fingers couldn't slide all the way in. It was never proven. The mystery, like so much of this case, remains. The trial lasted 9 months. The jury heard from over 150 witnesses. Barry Scheck dismantled the DNA evidence, not by disputing the science, but by showing how it had been mishandled. Blood samples left in hot vans, evidence bags improperly sealed, a detective who had lied under oath. On October 2, 1995, the jury began deliberating. It took them 3 hours and 45 minutes. The next morning, Judge Ito read the verdict into the record. The courtroom was silent. The entire country was silent. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder. O.J. Simpson closed his eyes. His attorney, Cochran, embraced him. Marcia Clark looked down at the table. Christopher Darden, the black prosecutor who had believed in this case, walked out of the courtroom. He was crying, but what happened outside that courtroom in the next 60 seconds may have been more revealing than anything that had happened inside it over 9 months. The cameras caught it all. In Los Angeles, in Chicago, in New York, in cities and towns across America, People had gathered in groups to watch the verdict together. And in the split second after those words were spoken, something cracked open. In black neighborhoods across Los Angeles, people ran into the streets. They cheered. They embraced strangers. They felt something that was difficult to articulate to those on the other side of the country who were watching in shock and fury. This was not, for many of them, simply about O.J. Simpson. This was about Mark Fuhrman, about Rodney King, about decades of being told that the justice system was fair and impartial when experience had taught them otherwise. When he was acquitted, all the black students ran into the hallways, jumping up and down. Asterisk recalled one Howard University law professor who was 12 years old at the time. Asterisk, and the white teachers were crying. In a single moment, a poll that had been conducted a year earlier told a devastating story. 63% of white Americans believed O.J. Simpson was guilty. 22% of black Americans agreed. The same evidence. The same 9 months. Two completely different verdicts in the court of public opinion. A survey taken after the verdict found that approximately 80% of black Americans agreed with the jury's decision. More than half of white Americans did not. Families argued at dinner tables. Friendships ended. Colleagues who had worked side by side for years suddenly discovered they were living in different Americas. It was, as one CNN correspondent later wrote, a preview of the country we live in today, before social media, before the era of competing realities. The O.J. Simpson trial showed America that two groups of people could watch the exact same event and arrive at entirely different conclusions. And that race was the lens through which each group was seeing. O.J. Simpson walked out of that courthouse a free man, but he would never truly be free. In 1997, the families of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman sued O.J. in civil court. The civil trial has a lower standard of proof than a criminal trial, not beyond a reasonable doubt, but a preponderance of the evidence. The civil jury found O.J. Simpson liable for both deaths. He was ordered to pay $33.5 million to the families. He paid almost none of it. In 2006, O.J. Simpson wrote a book, or at least put his name to one. It was called If I Did It, a hypothetical account of how he would have committed the murders if he had committed them. The Goldman family fought for the rights and won. They republished the book with a new cover design. The word "if" was printed so small, so dwarfed by the word "I," that the title read simply, "I Did It." In 2007, O.J. Simpson was arrested in Las Vegas. He had led a group of men, some of them armed, into a hotel room to retrieve sports memorabilia he claimed had been stolen from him. He was convicted of armed robbery and kidnapping. He served 9 years. He died on April 10, 2024. Prostate cancer. He was 76 years old. The reaction to his death split once more, along the same lines that had defined his life. Some mourned the athlete. Some felt relief. Many felt nothing but complicated. So what do we make of O.J. Simpson? What does his story tell us? Perhaps this: he spent his life trying to become something beyond race. I'm not black. I'm O.J. That was his chosen identity. And for a long time, America let him have it. Because he was useful to that story. The story that talent and charm and likability could lift a man above the circumstances of his birth, above the tensions of his time, above the divides that defined his country. But the moment he was accused of murder, race rushed back in. The defense used it. The prosecution had to navigate it. The jury felt it. The country split over it. And Nicole Brown Simpson, the 35-year-old woman who had called 911 more than once, who had told friends she was afraid, who had documented the abuse in journals no one acted upon, Nicole became, in some ways, the trial's forgotten center. Her death did leave one lasting mark. In the months after the murders, Congress passed the Violence Against Women Act, in part because Nicole's story had forced the nation to look at something it had been ignoring. Her sister, Denise Brown, testified before Congress in its support. The system had failed Nicole when she was alive. It tried, in a small way, to do better after she was gone. As for the question everyone still argues about, did he do it? In 1997, a civil jury said yes. The Goldman family's own published version of Simpson's book says yes. The criminal jury, in 1995, said something different. And America, 30 years later, still cannot agree. History will remember the verdict. This story remembers the people.